Hidden Killers Live with Tony Brueski, Stacy Cole, and Todd Michaels.
Well, as it has been going, more Kohberger information has dropped in the last, 12 hours or so, since many of us have been sleeping. We're going to go through that first today, and there's a lot of it. There's new images that Bryan Kohberger took himself in his apartment. This is images from his phone. We've all been wondering what is on the Bryan Kohberger cellular device. Well, we're about to find out more, and it turns out he's a big fan of taking selfies. I know a lot of us thought that's crazy. Why would this man be into taking selfies of himself? Well, it turns out he really is, and we're going to take a look at some of those in just a few minutes. There's new stalking reports out about Bryan Kohberger stalking people, like literally showing up at their homes, married women, having him showing up at their house. Just, hey, it's me. How are you? Tapping on windows, doing all sorts of weird stuff. It all lays into part of the bigger picture of Kohberger. We heard these stories about maybe tapping on windows around Moscow. This is going back way further. We're going to get into all of that. An Amish woman attempts to drown her family, takes out 2 members. We're going to get to that, and Siobhan Scott's going to join us as we're going to talk about the baby Emmanuel Haro case and Jake Haro, the evil monster father, and a system that allowed him to thrive, basically destroy the life of one little girl who will now live the rest of her life maimed because of him, in a system that allowed him to proceed. And then, of course, Emmanuel, he's gone. So a life extinguished. But there was a lot of ways to stop all of that. That's all coming up on today's Hidden Killers Live. First, we are going to begin with Bryan Kohberger, of course, arrested back in December of 22 for the murders of 4 University of Idaho students. The world's attention obviously froze to Moscow, Idaho at that time. Can you believe it? Almost 3 years ago now. We're coming up on the anniversary. 4 lives stolen, small town shattered, and a suspect who seemed almost out of place. An introverted PhD student in criminology. But as the case unfolded, investigators began finding a trail of behavior that pointed to something a little bit deeper. Signs that these crimes didn't come from out of nowhere. I want to talk about this for just a second. When we first saw the images of Bryan Kohberger, when we first heard about, this is the guy, did anyone have any inkling just how weird this man was going to be? I mean, we've seen all sorts of different killers over time, and they all certainly have their own unique qualities. But Kohberger, I don't know. I mean, what, Stacy? I mean, what's been your thoughts on this guy from the get-go?
He gives me some really creepy vibes. Right now, I'm looking at his ass in a pair of Levi jeans.
Stop. Spoiler alert.
Girl got to get it somewhere. I mean, come on. Oh, goodness gracious. This guy, he's thirsty for attention, is what I'm feeling from him, that he's not getting it somewhere. So he's going to go out and get it by whatever means he can. Or
at least attempt to. That's
yes, correct. Attempt to.
In his own way, and then be very rejected and dejected, and then go back to his lair, basically, and then seemingly, figure out his plan of stalking. Well, most people would just go into a dating app and go, let's swipe right, let's swipe left. He's like literally at people's windows, like, tapping and seeing if they're going to come and show up in that window that's not on a screen, but literally the one that he's staring through.
There's something not right with this boy. I mean, really, we're summing it up. We know what he's about, but this is very troubling behavior. And these selfies, like I took a selfie of myself. My hair is a little different today. So I wanted to see how it would look on a screen. Mm-hmm. And then I deleted it. I didn't hold up a piece of paper like with the date on it, like, here's my name, and we'll see all these pictures shortly. So I'm kind of floored by the whole thing. He's living in an alternate universe.
He really is. Let's start taking a look. I mean, just start putting these photos up on the screen, and if you're watching on YouTube, you can see them.
We have to start there.
We'll start here. And if you're listening on the podcast platform, be sure to check out Hidden Killers with Tony Brueski on YouTube so you can watch this and you can see these photos. I mean, what was, Todd, when you saw this selfie, and you've been working with our graphics on all this stuff. So when you see the crazy, amazing, wonderful graphics we have now, you can thank Todd because he's doing all that behind the scenes.
Yay.
I had a reaction when I saw this. What was yours? I'm curious if it's similar.
So one of the things I thought of was it almost looks like it's AI. Like, really, this is what you wanted. This is what you want. And okay, I want to back up just really briefly.
Yeah.
And that I'm not a pro burger, right?
No. But, yeah, of course. Yeah.
So take him out of the equation. Take the name Bryan Kohberger and everything we know about him out of the equation. People do take selfies, like Stacy said. Mm-hmm. And if you go on any social media, Instagram, there's a ton of people who do this stuff.
Sure.
Right? And most of them have the looks that probably are okay for that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Bryan probably is on the creepy side with his body and all that. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how weird that is. I think the timing of when the photos were taken is weird. And then this one is something that will haunt my dreams forever.
I'm getting everybody a coffee mug with this image on it.
Yeah, because I sent a text when you sent this, and I'm like, oh my God, my eyes. And then I sent the friends emoji where Phoebe and Rachel are jumping up and down going, my eyes. Is that what it was? Yeah, I can't unsee this. I can never unsee what is on my screen right now.
I don't know what is he trying? Is this trying to look silly? Is he trying to look spooky? Is he trying? I don't. Is this like just kind of one of those images where you're trying to get your face ready for a photo and you click it too early and it just captures like a weird in between expression? I mean, if we were to take any of us today, right now, I mean, in the last 10 seconds, we could probably find some weird expression all of us have made if we go to a split second image, 1/60th of a second on a frame rate, and we're going to get something like this. So I'm wondering if this is that, or if this is the pose, if this is, the one he was going for this. It's weird. I don't know any other way to describe it. He's got his eyes kind of in a weird way. His mouth is open. He's got his yellow coffee stained teeth there. It's a weird smile. You got to see it to believe it, really. Then set it and forget it. The Ron Popeil. But no.
Taking selfies with his earbuds in. It's very weird.
There's so many. It seems every time he's in his bathroom taking selfies, which he took a lot of in his bathroom, he's always wearing his weird earbuds. I don't know what they're some sort of an earbud. I think it's like around the back of the head.
Yep.
It might be the Beats ones. I had some of those a while back, and I had white ones, so this might be the black version. Let's see. There's others. Let's keep going through these photos here. Here he is looking emaciated. Honestly, he doesn't have a build of any sort. He kind of looks starved. If you thought like maybe this guy has a little bulk to him, it looks like, well, this is his vegan diet, I guess, is really paying off of being emaciated looking. You can see his rib cage. He's got his shirt off. He's saluting.
That's the weird part to me. Like, okay, I know that he was very proud of his weight loss. I'm guessing. I've heard some of that kind of stuff. But this is
after the murders.
Right. That's the whole point. Yeah. It's not like, hey, look, I've lost all this weight. My body's not great, but I want to somehow keep this historically in my phone. This is, I'm going to salute in a weird pose after I killed some people.
I think this is a salute to Papa Roger.
Do you really?
I do. I think it's a salute to the Elliot Rodger character. I do. I mean, you're adding like the military type, a salute in here. The Papa Roger character was military-esque looking in the stature on the photograph that was used for the profile shot. I do. I think this had something to do with that. He's got the earbuds in. It's another bathroom, close to the bathroom type shot. I don't know what else he'd be saluting. And if you look really closely, I don't know if you can zoom in there, Todd, onto his onto what? Onto his left nipple. Onto his knuckle. On his knuckle.
Oh yeah.
Oh shit.
You see a a wound that looks like it's in the stages of healing. Like this would have been taken a little bit after it. I mean, it's like you nailed your knuckle pretty good or cut your knuckle pretty good on something. It's a deep cut that's in the, probably a week or two stage of healing is what it looks like.
Wow. I didn't even notice that.
On his left hand. It's the finger, his ring finger on his left hand.
I was just busy looking at those pecs, man.
Stop.
Oh, yeah. Wow. I could see that. What else we got? There's more. There's so many of these that are just so. Here's another one.
God. Again, if you're not watching on YouTube, you are missing half of this.
He's got a real nice squint going on. I don't know if this is what he equates to sexy, or I don't know what he equates this to. Strength, power. He's got his fist clenched in all of these photos, and his face is kind of clenched up too. Can we get onto that knuckle at all and see?
And ladies, I'd love to hear from you in the comment section. Is this sexy? Is this what we want?
It's hard to see, but you can still kind of see that another mark right there. Let's move on to another one of these photos that have just been dropped.
Oh, God.
Here he is. This is Kohberger.
There it is.
This is my favorite. This is what we should have on this. This would go good on a tumbler. I think the other shot would go good on a mug. This would be like a good tumbler shot. It's more of a up and down at a 9:16 ratio.
I'm worried about our Christmas gifts, Todd.
I'm not celebrating this. I'm not celebrating this year, Tony.
Nope.
We're doing Festivus. It'll be the airing of grievances. Just wait. So he's got his shirt tied or like pulled up. He's got like a midriff going on here.
Like a chick would wear, like we tie our shirts at the bottom.
We can't see the front of him, but it's like he tied his t-shirt up in a little, scrunchy thing at the front, pulled it up. So he's like, it's like a belly shirt. And then he's wearing some jeans that, can you zoom in on the label? Are these like from TJ Maxx or something?
No, those are new Levi's, I think.
Are they new Levi's? It looks like I can't tell from the tag.
That's definitely a Levi tag.
It's a Levi. So he's wearing Levi's, admiring his lack of ass, because it doesn't appear that he has one.
I'm sorry. Ladies like a good ass.
I've been told that before.
Yeah, I know it's a true statement.
This show is traumatizing me big time today. The constant zooming in is really getting to me.
I'm just making a list of the things that I'd like, and I've seen none of it.
You're making a list of the things you like?
Not of Bryan. Not of Kohberger.
When you saw the pictures, let's get out the like list. Let's see if we can add some. Here he is again. This is, again, it's a muscle shot of his emaciated looking body. Got the headset in.
Good in that picture.
He looks good in that picture?
No, he thinks he looks good.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he thinks this is exactly where it's at. And I'm not body shaming. If that's what he wants to look like, that's great. But he is making out with himself in these photos. Hardcore.
He is. That's probably really what's going on here, since he gets, no positive feedback from anyone because he's so creepy and puts everybody off. He basically has to self-soothe himself by doing things like, and it's good to do. I guess this is self-love for Bryan Kohberger.
Well,
in his own way, it's admiring himself, which is what narcissists do.
So hang on a second, Tony. Todd, this is a good looking picture of him. I can't see what the date says, but again, he's holding up a piece of paper.
Mm-hmm.
It is weird writing. What are the letters on all these?
We figured it out. Actually, Banfield figured it out. So what we have here is him, and he's just wearing a regular old dress shirt. Looks fairly normal, and then he has his name written on there like a 7-year-old would. I mean, literally, the writing looks like about 7-year-old level, not 7th grade, 7-year-old. Then we have a date on this, and there's several of these, and I'm curious. I know what all these codes mean. I know what they are, but I don't know what are they representing. The second line is a date, 7/11/2022. What does the other thing mean? It's a flight number.
What?
A flight number?
They're all flight numbers.
For what?
I don't know. They are flight numbers
or something.
I don't know, but I think that we need to look into this. I mean, literally, I've seen these within the last hour. I've had no time to do any digging. But that's for my to-do list after the show today and you guys too out there, start digging into this flight. These are flight numbers and these are dates and this is his name. So I'd be very curious to look into I don't know if we can you backtrack flight numbers? Can you look?
Yes,
can you?
Can. Yep.
Because don't they change? They update, but you can look at it.
But you can look at the specific date. So if he's referencing a date, there's a flight number. We
need to look at the date and the flight number and where that would be to, because I think that might. I don't know. I think it's a clue. I think it may mean something, and there's been a lot of. This is 1,000% pure speculation.
Yeah.
1,000%. Okay. I know nothing of any of what I'm about to theorize to be true. But there's been speculation of, could he have been involved in this thing over here in odd locations that really weren't traditionally on the path of where you'd think he would be at X time? Like, where in the world is Carmen Sandiego-ish? I'm curious as to where these go and if he's at some places and if that means something.
I'm not getting a flight number. I'm not getting anything of file.
They're ticket numbers. They're flight ticket numbers is what they are. They're not like, it's not like the American Airlines flight X. Like, these are ticket numbers, I believe, from tickets. So I don't know. Again, I don't know how traceable it's going to be, but it's something to look into further.
It's a passenger name record, a PNR. A 6-character code used by airlines to identify a specific reservation.
Mm-hmm.
So was he going somewhere?
I wonder if we were to put these into like American or Delta or whatever with the flight number and the name, if that would pull up the track of where the flight was or where it went. Just like, you search to get your boarding pass and stuff. Mm-hmm. If that, I don't know. There's some research that needs to be done on that end. There's a lot of these. I didn't even give you all of them, Todd, because I didn't have time to gather them all up. But there's several different dates, most of them relating to 2022, prior to the murders taking place.
Boy, yeah, I'm not finding much yet, so I'll keep digging.
And it's on notebook paper. I mean, it's the weirdest thing. I'm just trying to reiterate for those who are listening. And in the photos where he's holding the stuff up, he has his shirt on. He looks fairly normal. But it's like, he's staring directly in the camera, like, look at this, like it's a trophy.
Yeah.
That's the weird part. Go to the next one here. And this is, I thought, was an interesting one. This is a shot of him at a ballpark. And look at what he's there, but there's a woman right behind him.
Right.
Oh.
It looks like there's a reason he's capturing that selfie of him at that exact spot, and that would be likely to capture her, is my guess.
God, he's scary.
Yeah, that's yeah.
And if you look at his eyes, the way he's looking at the camera, look, I'm not an expert at this, but you can kind of glean what he's doing. He's looking at that camera, and in the frame of that camera where he's looking at that image, he's looking at her.
I think you're right.
If you, it's basically like pool. You look at the angle and the shot back, his eyes are on her.
Yeah.
His eyes are on her in the angle of that camera. He's watching her through the lens of the camera taking the shot.
Oh, this just creeps me out.
Ugh, creeps you out. Jeez. Yeah.
There's a lot. So do we have more pictures, or are we at the end of it? Okay. So what are these pictures? Is this narcissism? Is this him leaving clues? Another thing I think we need to look at here is because he copies everybody. And that's pretty much all this monster has done, is just copy. Who else? What other killers did things like this, where they left a document of some sort with their name, their date, and something to do with a flight? I think that may tell us more. So there's everybody's homework for the day. Everybody out there, if you want to help us and dig into this and try and figure out what the hell is going on with these images, dig in and communicate. Let us know in the comment section here on this video what you find, and we can go back and forth and reconvene maybe on another episode here later in the week to discuss it more. But that's not all. But wait. There's more. If you look into Bryan Kohberger even more right now, we'll find even more serious revelations that have come through from the Idaho State Police. Reports now obtained by People magazine. 2 women, both students at Washington State University, came forward in 2022 to say they believed they were being stalked by Bryan Kohberger. These are new revelations. The first woman worked at the campus bookstore. She said Kohberger began showing up every day. He seemed, in her words, very used to being put off by women.
Great.
How does that translate? Very used to being put. Normally people are being very used to being put off by women, just avoid women in general. But he just keeps coming back for more. One night in late summer, she was at home alone, changing in her room when she heard a knock at her window.
Oh, God. Oh.
Yeah. Called her husband, and the person outside ran off. It happened again on another evening. She heard movement on the porch. Her husband came home just in time to see a white car pulling away. Kohberger drove a white Hyundai Elantra. The same car investigators later tied to the Moscow murders.
This guy was working up to something, wasn't he?
I really wonder if he was just, it could have been any night. I wonder how much he was planning for the night that he did this attack. Because there is some weird numerology there that Coffindaffer is unearthed with the 1122, his birthday being right there as well. Was the murders, or were the murders, a birthday present to himself?
No, I knew you were going to say that.
And didn't she also mention something about the address and all that kind of stuff?
The address, 1122. Yes. Thank you for pointing that out, Todd. There's a lot to do with the numbers. And here we have him holding up numbers. I
don't know if we're ever going to know everything that we all want to know about this guy, because it just keeps getting deeper and deeper and deeper.
And at the end of the day, what does it tell us other than it's a really weird riddle that we're trying to figure out? That the chemicals in his brain connected this way and that way, and this is how he communicates to the world. Okay, great. He's a very broken, messed up human being who scrambled, and we figured out how to connect the dots of this scrambled puzzle. Other than that, what does it tell us?
I think what it tells us is we've got troubled individuals in our realm. What can we do?
We know that.
Absolutely, we know that. But what can we do if we have a Bryan Kohberger in our lives? A guy who's tapping on windows, taking, pictures of women in the background. Yeah. What do we do when we see somebody like that? We retreat, we stay away from them. But is there something that we can do on a more proactive basis? And I'm not talking about lock him up. Oh, my God. No, but what can we do to protect ourselves from somebody like this?
I don't know that we can, other than being aware. Because if you go into more dystopian type life, if he were caught tapping on somebody's window, like the police showed up, the husband catches him or something, and they get him, you're going to get like a peeping something. It's going to be a slap on the wrist. He could do that 50 some times. And if that's all he keeps doing, it's a slap on the wrist. We keep getting warning signs from people over and over. The Haro case that we're going to talk about with Siobhan next hour, that guy literally maimed his daughter. She's screwed for the rest of her life.
Yeah.
And he got a slap on the wrist. So we don't do a whole lot about warning signs. We talk about warning signs a lot. When we have the warning signs, we're like, oh shit, look, we got the warning signs. And now what? The laws don't allow us to like keep these people locked away forever. I mean, nor should they. Or should they? Or should we have some other system in place here where it's like, look, and maybe the answer is more along this line. Mental hospitals. We used to have them in this country, and we do, but they're much smaller than they used to be. They're only operated on, for the most part, on small local levels. For the most part, the state mental hospitals were all taken down and destroyed by a man named Ronald Reagan in the 1980s. And those hospitals, these giant monolithic buildings, and I'm not saying they were great. There were some, depending on where you were at, that were treated very well. The people who were in them were respected, and they got good treatment. In some, they were literally chained to the wall, and it was horrible and horrific. And there's exposés on that. Geraldo did one on about it years ago, and literally, utterly horrible standards. I would think today maybe we could do better. Maybe today we could go back to it being a good standard. We'd have to certainly fund it, but it's where you could take individuals like this with a ton of warning signs and go, we need to put you over here. We need to see that you can integrate into society. Okay, because right now you ain't there. And we're not going to wait around for you to prove us wrong, because you're already doing this really creepy shit that you're one step away from really harming somebody more than you already have mentally. Just because someone hasn't physically harmed someone doesn't mean they haven't mentally harmed someone. And the fact that we allow people like this to continue to go on after they have done very mentally abusive things to other people, we don't put weight on the mental abuse, even though that ends up being some of the harshest, most damning abuse that any human being can endure is mental abuse over physical. But we don't take that seriously. And we just let everybody to each their own. It's free. I don't know what the answer is, but I think it might be something more in the middle where it's, let's see if we can get you help. And if you prove that you can't be helped, well, guess what? And there needs to be more authority from people, loving critics, as Robin would say, of people around them, like his parents. If you see something and you see your kid really struggling and there's something really off, having the ability to have authority to put them somewhere and get them somewhere where they can get help, whether they like it or not. Because most people who need this help, they're not going to raise their hand and say they need the help. They don't think they need the help. That's why they're doing the shit they're doing. Problem solved, everyone. I'm glad we got that taken care of.
I'd also like to point out that I think it's important for women, and it's something that I've gotten into in the last year. Self-defense is really important. Sure. And I think it elevates who you are within yourself so that you feel more confident and you're more situationally aware of what your surroundings are. You know, when you go outside to your car, are you looking around? It doesn't mean you have to live a paranoid life. People are doing this. Right. But it doesn't mean that you have to lead a paranoid life, but it's good to be aware. And I've been pointing out some situations like, you would think this way in this situation. Here's how I think. And it goes back to the whole scenario. Who would you rather confront in the woods by yourself, a bear or a man as a woman? Yeah. Most women choose the bear.
Well, unless you had Kohberger with you, because he had bear spray in his apartment. He did. Well, we're going to talk with Jennifer Coffindaffer about that in just a little bit. So stick around for that. The woman who had that happen, who had Kohberger tapping on her windows, told police he also seemed to know things that he shouldn't. He addressed her by name, though she never told him, and wore no name tag. He made comments about her work hours, suggesting he tracked them. To her, it was clear he was watching her life. The second woman worked in the criminology department where Kohberger was a PhD student. She was an undergraduate. She said he sought her out almost daily. She rejected him, even told him plainly she was a lesbian. It didn't matter. He continued. He was going to try and convert her. One night, she was working late. As she prepared to lock up, she saw him outside, staring directly into her window for their eyes to meet. He had to be deliberately looking in. When he entered the building, She panicked and hid in a bathroom until he left. Later, a neighbor warned her that someone had been right outside her window. Soon after, she learned that she lived across or very close to Bryan Kohberger. Let me ask you this. Was this, because this is an interesting one, is this an example of Kohberger obviously not respecting anybody's boundaries, obviously not respecting anybody's life either? Is this Kohberger trying to get control? And is this more of a control move than it is a sexual move? Because if he knows that she's a lesbian and she's not attracted to him at all, does he still think, I mean, is he running from the mindset of, I can make her attracted to me? Or is he running from the mindset of, I just want to control this person? It's nothing sexual about it. It's just pure control.
I bet it's both. I think this man operates from both of those perspectives. Mm-hmm. That he wants to control and he can change the narrative.
Well, yeah. And maybe it doesn't matter what about anything, about who she is as a human being. It's about him just consuming her for what he wants her to be. So she could say anything and it doesn't make a damn bit of difference. If he's attracted, that's all that matters.
Correct.
And controlling what he's attracted to is essentially the goal.
Yeah, and there's no permission given to these women. This is all about what he wants, and the women have no agency whatsoever. Yeah, you can just feel it.
She wasn't the only one. Another classmate remembered finding footprints in the snow outside her window. That's always comforting. Tracks had been backtracked as though the person wanted to hide where they began. So it's like, we're doing that like as a kid. You walk in like, not backtracking, but walking in like the prints of like who's in front of you because it's easier in the snow. Yep. He kind of did that to himself, it looks like, wanting to hide where they began. Kind of.
The little kid in The Shining did that. Remember when he's out in the snow and stuff like that, and he wanted to get away from the Jack Nicholson character? He backtracked in the snow in his own footprints.
Add another one.
Ding, ding, ding.
And
we actually had a comment earlier that somebody thought that his first picture looked like Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, I thought that was really good. She said she was, I think it was Orchid 1, I think. Mm-hmm. Thanks for the comment. It's great.
That's it's not surprising. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, early on, I think we were the first ones to call it here, where we said it looks like he's trying to dress like American Psycho and nod to that and Psycho. And turns out several months later, we learned, that's exactly what he was trying to do by that initial shower photo that he took. He's mimic. He's a mimic of everything. He mimics other things. He pieces other things together. Some of it from real life, some of it from fantasy and fiction, and then lives it. That's his identity. It's all these pieces of little things. That's why I'm really curious about those pieces of those pieces of paper.
Yeah,
that he was holding up with those numbers on it, because it's The tracks had been backtracked as though the person wanted to hide where they began. Another student reported someone trying to open their door again and again. Those reports stacked up. Women describing unwanted pursuits, intrusion at work, and fear inside their own homes. There were a lot of red flags here on this guy. A lot of red flags. But the problem, it seems, is nobody knew who was doing it for all that time.
But there were enough reports about him, that somebody should have looked into him anyway, even if you take away some of this other stuff.
Yeah.
Because you can't tie the two together necessarily. There was enough weird shit about him.
Yeah.
We've all, the three of us have worked in radio, and radio tends to attract kind of similar people, like really talented people who are outgoing and creative, and then the really weird people.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not wrong, am I?
Hey, Stacy, you want to have lunch?
What?
My name is Rob.
Yeah. Lots of stories there. But again, what do you do when you are around these quote unquote weird people, the ones who are inappropriately touching you or inappropriately staring at you? There has to be a mechanism in our world where we can go into gear and say, okay, stop. This behavior is not okay. You need to stop doing this and advocate for yourselves. And I think a lot of times we just retreat.
There are mechanisms for it. It's called firing people. And then, I mean, but if then they
come back and kill you.
Well, if it's not within the realm of employment, though, either, I mean, you have to. I mean, it's setting up boundaries, but they don't respect boundaries. So you're there. It just depends on the setting, really. Because in reality, if it's in the business world, if you have a boss or somebody that's doing this sort of shit, it's what happens in the teaching world. It's called passing the trash. What happened in our world where we got the creepy motherfucker fired for all the shit he was doing years ago? Well, they fired him. There's not a whole lot any of us could do beyond that. We couldn't prevent him from getting further employment, which he did. It took 20 years later, and we found out he was working in a school, and we called the school and said, hey, by the way, this fucker's a little creepy. We got some stories for you, but you might want to watch the kids closely. But that's the thing. It's just they can keep going. And the way that it works in terms of hiring and firing people today, you are putting yourself up at a huge liability as an employer if you were to give a negative review or recommendation of somebody. Because they could come back to you and say, well, prove it. I didn't get this job now because you said this negative thing about me. And then you got to go and deal with that. And you end up settling with somebody because they filed a frivolous lawsuit, and it's a hell of a lot cheaper to make them go away than it is to fight them in court over something of that. So the odds are stacked in the deck. The deck is stacked in favor of the predators. That's how our system works. That's outside of and that's where you have some grounds to do something within an employment situation. When it's outside of that, it's the Wild West. Have your cameras. The best thing you can possibly do is have ways of documenting and figuring out who the hell is doing these sort of things. That could be as simple as putting a Ring camera up over your door, over your windows. If somebody's doing this shit, figure out who it is. There's ways of doing it or deterring them if they know they're going to be on camera. Should you have to do that? No, of course not. But guess what? There's nothing else you can do. Unless you're going to hire private security to sit on your property 24/7, and the police aren't able to sit there and do that for you.
Well, again, it comes down to protecting yourself.
Yes.
And I carry, this sounds ridiculous, but I carry a knife with me at all times now. Mm-hmm. I've learned how to use it and what cuts are the best ones to do, to get yourself out of a situation. It sounds horrible.
She also carries a flamethrower when she goes through Target, which is a little weird. They're like, ma'am, what's in the backpack? And she's like, yeah, that's what's up, bitches. And everybody just go, okay, let her go. She's going over there. She's going to get, bottle of $2 Chuck and let her be with her flamethrower.
I don't drink $2 Chuck, but whatever. I thought you knew me better than this.
She drinks Franzia.
Thank you. If it's not in a box, I don't drink it. But seriously, women especially, we need to be ready to defend ourselves. And it's horrible to have to think that way, but stack the deck in your favor. And that's what I do. I've got knives all over my apartment. It sounds crazy, but I'm newly single. I'm on a ground floor apartment.
Do you have a sword? Do you have a sai? Are you like Mulan?
Not yet.
Okay. I think you need to get him out one day and we'll just do a camera pan of all your...
You can let the audience decide if it's too much. As you sit there at your house all day and your cats are telling you, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Stacy, the cats are really not speaking to you. There's no telepathic communication. That's you saying that to you, thinking the cats are saying that.
Yeah, but on a serious note, we have to be ready to defend ourselves at any given time. I hope we never have to, but knowing how to do it, if some situation presents itself, that you can put up the biggest fight possible. That's what's important.
I agree. I mean, I think it's one of those things where, look, if there's a problem, you have agency.
Correct.
You do. You can't. And I think so many people just, they lock up. They don't know what to do. What should I do? Like, I can't. No, you can't control them, but you can control you.
Yeah.
And there are things you can do to be preventative, to be prepared. Well, I shouldn't have to. You're right. You shouldn't have to. And that's where a lot of people stop going, well, I shouldn't have to do that. Well, then go be a victim. Be a victim then. That's just a choice. You are choosing to be a victim if you choose to do absolutely nothing to try and prevent something you are concerned about for your safety.
We got a message from Dawn who said that the 2-finger salute means victory.
No shit.
Well, that's even more frightening. Thank you, Don.
I'd be curious about the date on that specific one. You know?
Yeah.
Because we don't have the dates. We know that these were taken after the murders, but we don't know the exact. So it's within that window. But it seemed that whole window, he was kind of in that. I'm going to guess this was closer to the front end before he got super, super paranoid and was wearing gloves. Because this doesn't seem like the demeanor of someone who's, moving trash to his parents' neighbor's trash can with surgical gloves on. This seems like he's got a little more confidence at this moment in time.
Yeah.
The link to Moscow is indirect, but it is impossible to ignore. In the weeks before Kohberger's death, Kaylee Gonzalez told friends she felt like someone was watching her.
Ugh. She
said once she was letting her dog Murphy out, she saw someone staring from the woods near the house on King Road.
No.
There's your graphic for that segment, Todd.
Exactly.
Harriet standing in the woods. A surviving roommate later told investigators that Kaylee often mentioned this fear enough that she didn't want to be in the house alone. That's what I'm saying. I was kind of getting to that earlier, and then I kind of got off on another tangent. And I think we're going to miss the Amish people today. We might have to do that tomorrow. What do you think? Do you think that the King Road house and the date that he chose to go do that was he leading up to that? Was he planning for that? Or did he just finally get the nerve that day and said, damn it, it's my birthday, I'm going to go do this shit? Or was he ready and willing to do this at all these other homes, but never quite had the nerve to do it? Or were they all dry runs?
I go ahead, Stacy, if you've got a thought.
No, I don't. But that's just, oh God.
The more that we've kind of talked about this with some of our experts and speaking with Jennifer Coffindaffer and all that kind of stuff, I think he really had a plan for his birthday. I think that the address had something to do with it. It would be an awful odd coincidence that it didn't.
Yeah.
And I think he was, just my personal opinion, I have nothing to base this on, but just knowing what I know of him through our conversations and our discussions, I think he was just, these other things he was doing were just things that he was doing to kind of enjoy himself. Maybe leading up to, testing a little bit of this out, testing a little bit of that out. But I think he was just enjoying himself. I think he really planned the Idaho murders. And I think the numbers are tied together in some way, shape, or form.
I guess. Do you think that was him trying to be tricky? Like this is my little signature. I'm going to do this on certain, if he was planning to do more of it, was that going to be his calling card, doing it on certain numeral days that made sense as part of some sort of code? Because other than just the numbers lining up, okay, here's your birthday. It's 11/22, 11/22 King Road, and it's pretty close. It's 11. The date of the murders themselves was that just him in a really dense way going, oh, look at that. That's a numerology, that this is creepy. This is going to be or because it just seems there's a lot of loose ends if you're just going to plan it on numerology the fact that the murder scene was what it was, and to have the confidence to walk in there and think you're going to off 4 people. I don't think he walked in there knowing there was going to be 4 people he was going to kill. I think it was just going to be like 1 or 2, if that. So I wonder, maybe I just wonder how much he was planning it, or how much it just went awry. with the people. Maybe that is the thing. The numbers were the thing. He thought he was going to get in and get out. The numbers were all just going to line up and look creepy. But the fact that there was all those other people in there is what really ended up throwing him for the loop and surprising him.
You know, all I want for my birthday is just a nice dinner and flowers. I mean, am I not reaching far enough for the stars here? I just, what is wrong with somebody that this is what they want to do to gift themselves?
I think what you should do is tell a special someone that, hey, you ever hear of boudoir photos? I want you to take some like these, my man.
Oh my God.
And if he doesn't, he's a keeper.
Yeah, that's right.
So get a new pair of Levi's that don't quite fit, so your muffin top bleeds over. Mm-hmm. And I want to see that selfie of your ass from a mirror perspective, right? Because was that a reflection?
Yes, and you have to request that he puts a large textbook in where his ass is, so it looks like Kohberger's. So it's just like flat and there's nothing there, because you want to be as authentic as you can to the Kohberger.
There you go, Stacy. I'm just giving you what you want. Happy birthday. Happy birthday, honey.
You're a little early, but I'll take it.
I knew you would.
I'll take it. Thank you.
What do you think he's thinking? And do you think he's going, damn, I look good in those jeans?
Oh, absolutely.
I think he is. Yeah. I think he is.
He is so freaking proud of what he has to see there.
And again, just if you take the Bryan Kohberger out of it, maybe he's been through a lot with his weight. I mean, I'm somebody who's been up and down with my weight in my life. So when I lose a little weight, I feel good about myself.
Sure.
I'm not going to take an ass picture in the bathroom, but so
you should, Todd.
I've ever taken an ass picture in my life and I don't think I've ever taken a body, like I don't even take selfies, you know, unless it's like, oh, we need a headshot for something, you know. It's
it's what I'm loving about this conversation with you guys is it's not just creepy to me as a woman, it's super creepy to you guys too, and I appreciate that, because it should be creepy to everybody.
It's extremely creepy.
Some guys would look at that and go, what? He's happy about his body. He's taking photos. And we may even have somebody in the comments who can't see what's wrong with this.
I don't know. I'm sure there's people who don't see what's wrong with it. I mean, it's the same people that I've seen out there. I was rushing this morning because this story popped up. I'm like, shit. So I'm trying to get it together. And then of course, you know, I see somebody that posted some video about it being about why would Kohberger admit to crimes he didn't commit, and it's his mother made him admit to crimes he didn't commit. Like, who in their right mind is still sitting out there thinking that Bryan Kohberger didn't do this? I'm sorry, if you have empathy and sympathy for Bryan Kohberger, knowing what we know about Bryan Kohberger and the evidence that exists out there against him, I would question you being alone with a female, alone with anybody, really. I would wonder where your track record has been. Where's your GPS going to put you at night? If you're sitting there sticking up for Bryan Kohberger to this day, I'm going to guess you may also be a predator or have predatory tendencies. Just a thought. You want to see something, say something? I'd look at those fuckers very closely.
Yeah, that's frightening.
Very, very closely, because there is something not right with that way of thinking. So that's the latest on Kohberger, the pictures, the new claims of stalking, all sorts of fun that we can break down. And everybody, do look into those numbers, look into those dates, see if you can figure out a correlation as to why those things were on that piece of paper like that. That was very, very bizarre. In just a little bit, we're going to talk about the baby Emmanuel Haro case and Jake Haro and how this system completely broke down in every which way and form. Siobhan Scott going to be joining us, psychotherapist and author. That's coming up in just a few minutes. But first, let's go to Jennifer Coffindaffer and a conversation I just had with her about Bryan Kohberger and about some more pictures, about the pictures from within his house. Here's that conversation. Stay with us.
This is Hidden Killers with Tony Brueski. Here now, Tony Brueski.
The case against Bryan Kohberger, obviously, he's in jail for the rest of his life. But that doesn't mean there's not new pieces of this puzzle that we are finding and unwrapping and putting into the puzzle going, oh, well, this might make a little bit more sense. We're going to talk about some of the images from that apartment that have been released, the hundreds and hundreds of images from Bryan Kohberger's apartment, his office, and there's some interesting findings in there, including the medication that he was on. Yes, it was blocked off, but we have figured out what it was because there was a medical code that was not blocked off. And we're going to talk with Jennifer Coffindaffer, retired FBI special agent, about that today. But Jennifer, let's start with this. So newly released images from the apartment. It really gives us kind of a rare, intimate look at the environment that he inhabited in the aftermath of the murders. And I kind of think of this almost like not even as an apartment, it is like a habitat because he's kind of like a lizard. And it's just like, oh, well, there's his feeding bowl over there. And there's his little water thing. There's disturbing clarity in what was left behind, from the criminology text to the birthday cards sent after the killings, cleaning supplies, blood stains, chilling handprints. It's not all just clutter. It's a story that is that's being told. Let's look at some of this. Investigators found the graded essays and academic files, some critical of his writing and what he was putting out there to his professors. What did you glean off of? Let's start with that. Some of the papers, some of the academic pieces that were found in his apartment.
Well, I have to say and I wasn't a PhD student in criminology, but I was a criminology major. And when you look at the different papers that are written, quite frankly, I thought everything seemed sort of routine in terms of what you study in criminal justice. So it didn't jump off the page like I think it might be to some people because they haven't studied it. So it was nothing that I found too profound, if you will. I thought it was interesting, though, that he talks about the lack of training with police officers. So he knew that. We all know that. Most of us know that. They go through a very short training period, and that's all the training they ever get for the rest of their career. Other than they don't even get training in shooting. They go out and they qualify with their 50 or 60 rounds once a year, and that's it. So their training is literally OJT, and that's why there's, mistakes made. And he well knew that. I did think that was interesting, almost like he was sort of counting on it.
There's birthday cards there as well, dated November 21st of 2022, just days after the actual murders, which, I don't know, that's an interesting find. And the thought I'm just having there is, it was so close to his birthday that these crimes took place, and he'd been stalking for quite some time. Do you think in some way, shape, or form he chose this date to be his own little pre-birthday present?
I do. I don't think it's a stretch to say anything like that. Think of all the times that you said, you know what, I'm going to take this trip. It's a week in advance of your birthday. I'm going to take it. I'm going to buy this something for myself because you know what? My birthday, it's coming up. It's around the corner. And it makes so much sense to me when you see the thumbs up selfie combined with the timing. It just makes all the sense in the world that this was some sort of gift to himself in part. I know that sounds horrible. That's what I really believe.
No, I mean, it does. Of course, it sounds horrible, but yeah, when you put that together, it's another ode to himself. For someone that really just thinks the world of himself. Well, Mom seemed to as well. We saw that birthday card in there with who was it? It was Teddy Roosevelt, I believe, riding a dinosaur. And Mom made some interesting notes on the card. I don't have it directly in front of me at this second, but it was alluding to his personality. One part being kind of the more formal academic, the Teddy Roosevelt, the other being this dinosaur that's out of control, that's just knocking things down and has no self-control, nothing. It's just out there, this rage in the universe. It's interesting that Mom honed in on that when she was walking through Walgreens picking out the card, and how accurate that really does seem to be of his personality. I'm not going to take the credit for that observation. Robin Dreek had that this morning with us. I'm curious to get your thoughts.
Yeah, no, I thought it was very interesting. I posted that card right away. I also thought it was interesting, the date of his birthday coinciding. It's just interesting with the 11/22 when he decided to do the murders with 11/22 King Road. Just kind of one of those things. Do I think he did it because of that? Did he choose that address because of that? No, but it's just kind of one of those weird things. But definitely noticed that with the card. It blared off the page, in my opinion, that he had a grandiose view of himself, and it wasn't missed by his mother.
God, the numerology is getting weird on this, isn't it?
It is, and that's all it is. But I tell you, it's just over and over again. I keep finding these little nuggets.
I mean, not in no way saying it's like supernatural or ghostly. It's more like, did he plan it this way? Did he seek out these numbers to do things in certain ways? Oh, but again, he's a copycat of a lot of things. So it could just be a couple places where these numbers line up, and it's like he thinks this is some, in-depth look at me and how great my thinking is. The apartment appeared very Spartan, bare walls, stripped shelves, minimalist storage. In your experience, I mean, does that minimalism, is that an attempt to, erase personal emotion? Does it show he doesn't have any emotion, or to create any sort of psychological distance from anything, including a setting that one would call home?
Well, you ready for this, Tony? Because I might throw a wrench in that philosophy.
All right.
I really believe that I want to see his apartment before the murders.
Mm-hmm.
I would have loved to have seen that. I bet you it looked more like his icebox and his pantry.
Mm-hmm.
This is my point. He, just like they said, he dismantled that car and put it back together to make sure he wiped it clean. I think he did that with his apartment. He didn't want any possibility of any blood, any pet hairs, anything being found at a later time. I think he cleaned, he scrubbed. I think he made that apartment that sterile. I don't think it was that sterile before the murders.
Mm-hmm.
I could be wrong. I just don't think it was that sterile. I think that's why we see no shower curtain and all the other sterileness of that place. I think he got rid of anything.
You make a good point. I mean, he did it with the car. We know that, basically described as disassembled. Because it almost feels like when I look at that apartment, I said earlier on the show today, I said it looks like he's staying at like the Residence Inn or something, where you're just there for a few nights. You're in town and then you're out. You put a few things in the closet, whatever, and then you're in and out. But this is where he's living for long periods of time, but to not have anything there, it looks like he's getting it ready to sell or to leave or to move out. But that does make a lot of sense. His car was almost, disassembled your car, but I guess you clean it up before you sell it. It kind of had that same sort of vibe to it. That's a very good observation. I'd agree with that. Among the recovered items, a lot of cleaning supplies, which points to that. A box of bear spray. Odd combinations for the context. I mean, how do these elements become more than just supplies in interpreting suspect behavior? Or at this point, is it just kind of random things that we're finding in this house? He got rid of anything that would have been more questionable.
There is no way that, in my opinion, that bear spray is random or just something he had around. This goes back to my belief that, and I've said this from day one, that he hid those garments, he hid that knife, because for him to return to them, just like Bundy would return to dead bodies and get off, I think he was going to return to those items, indicia of the crime, his reminders, that precious knife, and get off. And I think it's hidden well within a wooded area somewhere. And I think that bear spray was to protect himself when he went into that environment.
So it wouldn't have been used against people. It was to protect him to get back to his hidey hole, basically.
That's what I think.
That makes sense. Robin also has the same sort of theory. He brought it up on the show, I think, initially before a lot of folks did. Even talking about some specific locations. If you look back, where his car would be, some of those parks, he's been wondering if maybe that hidey hole resides in one of those areas. What are your thoughts on where maybe this hidey hole might be?
Well, I think the initial hidey hole was close to that Moscow area in that circuitous way that he took and the time that was spent after the murders and before he arrived back at the apartment. So I think that was an initial hidey hole. I think there was a secondary hidey hole that occurred en route from Moscow to Pennsylvania. Again, a very circuitous route, a route no one would take, especially on a long trip, unless they just wanted to see, the biggest ball of twine somewhere if they were on some sort of mission.
Who doesn't?
Exactly. There's no reason for him to take that route. He had that shovel, which again, a lot of people said, well, the snow shovel, I have had this conversation. I don't think that was a snow shovel. There was dirt in it. We don't know what the shovel was. That is one of the pieces I am dying to see. But, the FBI thought it was important enough that they took the dirt and compared it to all these other dirts from all these other places that were en route in that weird route he took to get back home. So, yes, this is telling me as an FBI agent, this is what I would have done if I had a shovel. Why did he have that shovel with him?
Why? Exactly. I think we should all get together some weekend with metal detectors and go visit these parks and see what we can find.
He's so interesting. That K-bar knife, for people who don't know, and I really need to take a picture with it. It's huge. Tony, it's huge. Yeah. I bet you it's about this big, like from the top of my fingers to here. This isn't the little.
It's not a little knife that you would think, let's put this here. This is a killing machine, and it has some space in whatever box it's sitting in under the ground.
Want more on this case and others? Then press subscribe now and don't miss a moment of true crime coverage from Tony Brueski and the Hidden Killers podcast. This is Hidden Killers Live with Tony Brueski, Stacy Cole, and Todd Michaels.
Seven-month-old Emmanuel Haro. We're going to talk about that. He's gone. Prosecutors say his father, Jake Haro, killed him. And what makes this case so devastating is that it should never have been possible. Just 2 years ago, Jake was convicted of shattering the bones of another infant, a fractured skull, spinal damage, multiple broken bones. Oh, that was his daughter. Yet instead of prison, a judge gave him probation. Like you do. I'm giving you a second chance, the judge said. That chance meant Jake went home free to father more children because he just couldn't stop. And now we're looking at a tragedy that feels less like an isolated crime and more like the inevitable result of a system that put rehabilitation ahead of protection. Emmanuel's death isn't just about one man's violence. It's about courts that minimize risk, probation that didn't safeguard children, and red flags that went completely unanswered. To help us understand this, how this happens, and why it keeps happening, joined by psychotherapist Siobhan Scott. We're going to take a look at the psychology of abusers today, the psychology of partners who stay, and the psychology of a system that continues to undermine all the danger, all through the lens of a child who never should have been left vulnerable. Siobhan's latest book, Nightbird. This is her memoir, very much worth checking out. Also, The Minds of Mass Killers, available wherever books are sold. Siobhan, welcome as always to the program.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, you too. This has been such a troubling case from the beginning because you look at this and you go, okay, come on. There's 1,000 ways this could have been stopped. This judge here could have stepped in, could have said, hey, the buck stops with me. I'm the judge. But no, he put him back out there. But the information that the judge was basing that decision on, the judge is not out there examining each one of these cases, going into these homes like the CPS workers kind of do. And I don't want to say do, I want to say kind of do, not because they don't want to, but because they don't have the resources to do their jobs effectively. So you get such half-assed reports and half-assed the recollections of are these people safe? Are they not? I guess I want to go back even before the judge with you. How does something like this get to where it goes, especially when you heard this case? When you tie it way back to its genesis, where did it go, Siobhan?
It's really hard to believe that we do such a poor job of taking care of kids in this country. But really, when we look back at the history of the country, we do a crappy job now. We've always done a crappy job. In the 1800s up into the early 1900s, we didn't even have laws that said parents could not harm their children. One of the first cases of a child abuse case that was brought to court in the US was in 1874, and it was brought under an animal abuse law because there was no child abuse law to get a child taken away from the biological parents.
So animals had more rights at first than children.
Animals were protected under law with specific things you could not do to harm animals, but we didn't have laws about kids because it was just assumed that parents always mean well and parents will have the best interest of their kids in mind, and why do we need to worry about it? So have we made some progress? We've made some, but we still don't really do a very good job. We don't require that judges in family court have any specialized training in child abuse, in child psychology, and understanding addiction dynamics and you know, the kinds of things that result in such bad outcomes. Now, there are states that are trying to implement some rules about this to have judges better trained, but it's very piecemeal and fragmented. And for the most part, you have people that have maybe worked in the legal profession for decades and have a lot of experience with criminal cases, but that's not what we're talking about when we're talking about issues involving child safety.
It's shocking that, I mean, all of this at the end of the day, it's all about mental health for the most part, because if you had mentally healthy people, they wouldn't be killing their kids. They wouldn't be abusing their kids. These things wouldn't be going on. Yet we don't put any sort of weight onto the people who are out there patrolling this sort of stuff. Police don't have any sort of training for the most part in any sort of mental health understandings of any of the things that they walk into every single day. It's up to them if they want to study up on that. Other than that, it's just up to them to be, you know, good, right individuals that are making the best judgment calls they can based on the knowledge that they have, and no judges having any sort of insight in this. And at the end of the day, it's all based on that. So we're entrusting people to make these life-changing decisions, but going, oh, are you remotely qualified? Do you have any experience in doing this? No. Oh, go make the choices. It's like, hey, we want you to go be the pastry chef, but we know you have an aversion to flour and have never baked a thing in your life. Go, please be the pastry chef. I'm sure you'll be wonderful at it.
Yeah. And 50% of child fatalities, there's about 2,000 a year every year. We seem to be pretty consistent about that in the whole country. And 50% of the time, the family had prior CPS involvement from the time that the child was killed. So we're just not doing a very good job. And I think courts like to have concrete evidence. They like to say, well, here was the plan. We ordered, addiction counseling. We ordered parenting classes. We ordered this and that. And here's the boxes checked off that this person did all those things. So here's our nice and concrete evidence. And they're confusing compliance with actual change. And people may jump through hoops and look like they're doing the right thing when in fact they're not integrating any of it.
And that's the thing. It goes back to the assumptions. We assumed parents were going to, not kill their children. So we have laws for animals. Obviously, that's a bad assumption to make. We assume that that same thing today, that people are going to make the right decisions, that they go into these programs and, okay, well, they sat there, they did this required parenting class. Now they must be a great parent because they sat and checked the box because, well, they were going to go back to jail if they didn't. These are not ways of truly rehabilitating anyone or training anyone into a way of healthy thinking. There's no parent that abused the hell out of their children that's going to take a class on the weekends. It's going to come out of that going, my ways are changed. It was a bad idea to beat the hell out of my kid. It's either there or it's not. And if you're, I mean, go ahead, Siobhan.
Just true for parenting classes, true for anger management classes.
Yeah.
It's people who are, let's just say, really malformed in their personalities. They've got a lot of problems. There's so much wrong. It's not a matter of just not having the cognitive information on what you're supposed to do when your baby cries. It's not a matter of that. It's a matter of, do they have the capacity to regulate their own internal mood state, to have insight, to, in essence, take care of another living human being. It's the biggest responsibility any of us would ever have. And this idea that we can just give them this little educational course and it's this lack of information that makes them a bad parent and now it's all going to be fine. It doesn't work for domestic violence cases and it doesn't work for parenting.
Why do we keep assuming that everybody has capacity to do things?
Right.
I hate that. I mean, does it go back to just the way we look at like everyone and how we've looked at children for the last many years? Like, you can do anything you want. No, you can't.
Yeah.
You really can't. You can do what you're qualified to do. You can do as much as your brain allows you to take on. You cannot be anything you want. You cannot do anything you want. Sorry to burst the bubble, but that's just the reality. There are bounds within each one of us of what we're capable of doing. It's not saying we can't do great things within those bounds, but not everyone is capable of everything. And unfortunately, some people, the bar is just that low. They are not capable. They're barely capable of taking care of themselves if you look at their track record, like that of these two yahoos. And yet, it's like, well, they reproduced. He stuck his penis in her, and then goo came out, and a baby showed up. That must magically make them suddenly able to be really responsible parents. Let's just give them the benefit of the doubt and hope everything goes well. We assume that everyone has these capacities when they don't. Can we ever go maybe back to a time where we would look at folks to a certain extent and go, you don't have the capacity to do this. You don't. Yeah. And we're not going to allow you to destroy another life or screw someone up so bad that once you're dead because you ended up killing yourself or hurting yourself or maiming yourself or getting yourself arrested, and now this person is just out there to repeat the cycle because they know no better. That seems to be how we function.
Yeah, I think you hit it perfectly with the understanding that this positive thinking, right? America is a country built on positive thinking. You can do anything, recreate yourself. And I mean, we all like to believe those things. But I remember one of the best classes early on in my grad school coursework, the teacher said, number one, I want you to thoroughly assess your client's capacity for change. And I remember writing that down and going, wow, the capacity, what really can this person do? And what are the realistic limits that they came into the world with here? And I think that's something that the US doesn't do a very good job of understanding, that you can't just give everybody information and a pep talk and accept that they're going to go out and be transformed. It's positive thinking, right? But it really only takes you so far. And there are people who shouldn't be raising puppies.
Yeah, Stacy?
100% true. What I notice is a lot of people live their lives by memes. And while memes are fun, that doesn't make you a good parent, a good partner, a good employee. You have to do the work. You have to go through the process. You have to become something. You can't just post something on your refrigerator and go, I'm good. And I feel like that's what we're turning into. We spend time scrolling through TikTok and we see a 2-minute video on something and think, okay, well, I got that mastered. No, we don't. No, it's in everyday life. It's in real life that you actually have to do these things and practice them and try to be better every single day. It's just exhausting. Sorry, that was a little commentary on my part. Woo!
There's a difference between positive thinking, or is there? And it probably depends on the society we're talking about. But I think in America, we have a very big crossover, and we sometimes don't recognize the difference between the two, but they are very different. Positive thinking and magical thinking.
Yes.
And that seems to be where the illusion gets really convoluted. And people, no, I believe in the power of this person. I'm going to pray about it. I'm going to do this about it. Like that's going to do jack shit. This person needs serious mental health help.
Yeah.
And we're not willing to give it to them. We don't have the means to give it to them. Your positive thinking is great and it makes you feel good so you can go home and not have to deal with any of the chaos that this person is inflicting on other people's lives. But you can feel good about it. You can say, I gave that guy a chance. And I wonder, did Judge Dwight here, did he feel like that when he went home that day? He saw the report from the parenting classes that Jake checked those boxes. He showed up, because many of them don't. I mean, a lot of the parents that are assigned this shit, they just continue to squander their life away, and then their children are left to the system. But this guy, he did. He went to the classes. There's no class that's going to teach anything different or fix someone who literally crushed their child's skull and then lied about it forever. And now she's maimed forever. But he did. So the judge is looking at this. Well, he went to the classes. And for whatever asinine reason, he thought, I'm going to give you another chance. Do you think he walked away that day going, no, that guy did that stuff. That's a positive. It's making me feel good that he's out there doing that he's going to be rehabilitated. And we're giving someone a second chance at life here.
I would love to be having a conversation with that judge at this point, because did he walk away feeling good that day? He very well may have. And he may be a very kind person who sees himself as always trying to do the right thing. And I'm sure he tries, but boy, it's just sickening. And I would hate to be him. And I would be very interested in having a conversation with how is he making sense of this? And are judges getting together and talking about it? Because I think it would be something that would be a really important topic. If judges had conferences where they all got together or sat down with clinicians and said, what can we do about doing a better job here? I mean, I think that's where the talk needs to go.
Well, that's the big problem in half of this world. I mean, they're a piece of this puzzle. They're not the ultimate solution, but they also have no accountability either. Right. And that's the problem. They can make horrible choices. He can keep, and I'm not saying he did this, but a judge could keep flowing people through their courtroom, giving every positive thought in the world. You get a second chance. You get a second chance. You get a second chance. Everybody gets a second chance after they beat the shit out of their kids. Yay. And have the Oprah moment, or they can take a look at the situation and realize, people kind of suck. And there's a lot of really low functioning human beings out there that were able to do these horrible, horrible things. And if we just look at any sort of track record, most of them don't ever change. So are we giving too much chance? Are we giving too much assumption that people have the capacity to change when it comes to their treatment of children? We seem to have very little tolerance when it comes to drug use and things of that. Like, we got to put you away for a long time. But when it comes to like taking care of children, of course, that it's a mother, of course she'll be great. It's a father, of course she'll be great. We seem to just, if they have them, they must know what to do. Or did they lose the instruction manual? Well, go this weekend. We'll give you a new one.
Yeah, if I got to be judge, you hurt a child ever, I mean, in a serious injury, you break a bone, you fracture a limb, you hit a child in the head, you're done. You don't have children. You know, we're not allowing you to be around anyone's children or have your own children if you hurt a child. There shouldn't be second chances. There's just something so wrong with someone who inflicts a serious injury on a child.
But aren't we in a world in our country where it's almost like staffing. It's a staffing problem is really what it is. We have police departments that are desperate for cops. So we end up getting really, bottom of the barrel applicants getting jobs and then having tremendous power over their communities. We see this in all sorts of places where it's hard to get people to fill the position. Yeah. It's hard to get people to fill the position of being parents. And there's not exactly an overabundance of them out there if we were to recognize this, when we do recognize these sort of horrible parenting failures, to say, okay, you're done. We're going to give this to a loving family that really could take care of it. That doesn't exist. The ones that do exist, they want a baby. They want a fresh start. And I don't blame them. They don't want essentially damaged goods. And I know that's very harsh to say, but I'm just, for the sake of the argument, people don't necessarily want to sign up with somebody that's been traumatized 50 ways to Tuesday by their horrible parents and then try to help them along. They're not capable. They're not in a place to help that child get along after all of that damage. But we sit there and we allow these parents to do this. Is it because there isn't an alternative?
I think often that's the case, unfortunately. We've talked, you and I, before about the need for more foster care because we've got a tremendous shortage and we don't have orphanages anymore, which is a good thing. We want kids in foster homes, but what do you do when you don't have enough foster homes?
Well, is it a good thing? I mean, the old days, what we think of as orphanages in historic context, yeah, they weren't the greatest. I mean, the same with state mental hospitals. Some were horrific. Some were lovely. But I would think at this day and age, we could get a better grip on these concepts.
I'm going to step in for a second. And I say this as somebody who watched somebody with dementia in assisted living. And it was, I want to say $1,200 a month for that care. And while it wasn't horrific, but it was subpar.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Can't we do these things better? Instead of just going, well, it was shitty over here for this person. It was horrible in the past over here. Yes, it was, without a doubt. Let's do better. Let's try and reinvent these concepts because they did serve a purpose. There was a reason these things existed. And I don't know that not having them has really helped anything.
Yeah. Ideally, if kids are going to be in a situation where they're going to thrive, it would be in a small family type environment rather than in some kind of large institution. Could that be done? Could we incentivize the situation for people to start small family residential, if you want to just call it a residential treatment home or something like that? I think that could be done, but we'd have to prioritize it and situations where kids can be raised in a situation where we know that they're not being beaten and treated poorly. It should be possible.
I've got some friends who actually, they thrive on grabbing, and I'm going to boil it down to like walking through a humane society and walking in and saying, give me the one that you're about to euthanize. I'm going to take that one home. And that's who these people are with foster children. They go for the ones that have been horrifically abused, and they're lovely people. They have a very loving home, but they can only take 2 or 3. And there's so many in the system, and not everybody is built for that. Not everybody wants to put that kind of commitment in. So I think that's a really tall order. There's just not enough people out there with, as we said, capacity to do this. And it's sad.
I mean, ideally, it would be wonderful if we had homes out there where we had people that could do this. That's where I guess my argument is, well, what's the second best thing? Is it having more of a It's more of a community setting. It's not as small knit as we'd like it to be in a family type setting, but it is more of an orphanage. And then maybe we just change the name to something different so it doesn't have such horrible stigma to it. But it would be more of a community living center where the kids aren't being beaten. They are taken care of. And I know some of these, they do exist to a certain extent, but to have more places like this that are policed better so they are safe and we don't have a lot of issues with them. I would say I'd rather send the kid there than to some of the homes that are foster homes that are basically taking in kids for cash so they can get an extra check every month.
Yeah, it is being done. And in fact, I worked in a program like that was for short-term placement for kids when they were taken from their biological family who had abused them. And before they could find an ongoing foster home situation for them, it was a short-term residential treatment program for young kids. I worked in some for teenagers. This is going back into the 1980s. So a long time ago, we had them. And you had people who were like me right out of college. We were excited, we were enthused, and we would come in and rotate through on shifts. And so there was 24-hour coverage there to basically reparent the kids. And it was benevolent. It was kind. The kids were well cared for. And is it as ideal as having your own family? No. But if your family is abusive, it's certainly better than that. And it was not a big institutional orphanage kind of setting. So could it be done? Sure, it could be done.
Do we need more of that? Do we need more of that? Do we need many more of them? So when the warning signs are there after Jake barely, almost murdered his first daughter, and now she's maimed and going to live the rest of her life like that. So the first time that happens, we can look ahead and see, oh God, this guy reproduced. He should have been away to begin with, but if there is no other place for these kids to go, we're not just sitting here going, well, he hasn't hurt this one yet. Yeah, that's the thing that I think on this case is so disturbing, is the fact that the first child will never be normal. I mean, she is permanently disabled, and so then to go back and have a second attempt here with another child. Yeah, if I were the judge, if I had the power, this person simply cannot reproduce, know? What can we do about that? That people are reproducing, who we don't have places to raise these children the right way, and we don't want to see these little babies tortured. It's like, what in the world do we do? Can judges anywhere order like castration anymore? Can that be done? Can that be done for anybody? After, I would think like Jake Haro would have been a prime candidate for such a thing. Yeah, I don't think it's done here. Maybe Saudi Arabia or something. Yeah. Should we have that? I mean, is it? I mean, I guess that's the question, because everyone go, oh, that's horrible. That's crazy. Well, if you're not abusing the shit out of your children, you have nothing to worry about. Right. If you are abusing the shit out of your children, you should be a little bit scared. And the rest of us should have zero pity for it. I don't think anyone would have really objected that Jake's rights were being stepped on in case he wanted to make more kids if he was castrated. I know it sounds extreme, but the extreme shit these people are doing to children, we just seem to look the other way on that. Yeah, it really, it's one of those around the dinner table conversations that we could just sit and go, what in the world do we do? I mean, I just think you should have to have a competency test before any of your sexual parts function. That'd be great. Like your competency as a human being in the real world before you can be sexually active. Birth rates would plummet because no one would be like, nobody's competent. What do you think the percentage would be if the entire population had to take that test? And what percentage of the United States population would pass that test? I could write a really strict test. I could be pretty strict about what the standards are. Yeah. As we go into the dystopian world, as we all take it over, I don't think a lot of people will be excited about that planet, but I think it might be a little more peaceful. I don't know. Yeah. Let's talk about Rebecca Haro. This is the woman who made the story up about being assaulted in the parking lot of the sporting goods store. And when she came to, the baby was gone, although it's all bullshit. None of it happened. She's arrested and she's been charged with this. She's still standing by her man in prison, at least as of her last idiotic interview that she gave. Let's talk about that. I mean, what the hell's going through one's mind? Let's reproduce with a guy who almost killed his first daughter. This seems like a lovely human being to begin a family with.
Dependent personality is where my head went with that, envisioning what would it be like to sit and talk with her. Probably someone who really doesn't have much of a sense of self or identity apart from him, was very likely abused by him herself and has lived in fear of him. Tremendous fear of him, still may be in fear of him, but at the same time have that trauma bond going where she desperately wants to please him, wants to keep him happy, and wants to protect him. And so, yeah, terrible headspace to be in would be what Rebecca lives with.
Does that absolve her of guilt in any of this, of being in a household with someone who was capable of doing this and did in fact kill their child? Does that absolve her of any of it?
I don't think, as far as a moral responsibility for protecting her child, she had a moral responsibility to protect her child. She has lied to law enforcement. She's going to be found guilty of all of that, I'm guessing. Does it have some weight when it comes to what should her punishment be? The way that she came into the relationship with certain personality problems, her own abuse history, abuse by this man. There is probably where there's some wiggle room with, does that get taken into account? I mean, would a jury hear evidence of what she had been put through, and what, when we talk about her innate capacities and incapacities were, and would that impact in some kind of a penalty phase eventually? That's where I would see it being relevant.
I mean, doesn't it come back to, I mean, this sounds really trite, but hurt people hurt people. So it doesn't excuse what she did, but it explains it a bit, right?
Yeah, it does explain it a bit. And if we knew her story, we could all, in likelihood, have some degree of compassion for her. But I think when it comes down to, is there a moral responsibility? If you give birth to a child, you are there to protect and keep that child safe, always. Always. That's simply the foundation.
I think the major concern I would have here with this is the fact that she could be released at a time where she could still reproduce. And if I were a betting man, I'd bet that bitch would make some more kids. If she had the opportunity, it probably would happen, because for whatever reason, it would happen. It just seems to work that way with folks like this. And again, another contender, maybe not. You shouldn't be having kids. You've shown us this doesn't work out well the first time or two. But of all the restrictions that could be put onto her, if she were to be released, I'm sure that would not be one of them. It isn't one of them. It can't be one of them.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And so often the folks that we can look at and have tremendous compassion for them on one hand, but on the other hand, realize this is not a person who should be having children. And so often those are the folks who are having children, having lots of children.
Way too many of them. I mean, it's a cycle. And that's the scary part of it is, even because once you remove the abuser from the situation, if the child survived, good luck. It's basically, let's hope you get someone in your world that can get you on a good path. Otherwise, it repeats. That's why we end up looking at these folks and go, what happened to you? Oh, okay. Like Stacy said, in no way excuses is an excuse, but it explains. And we're very good at explaining things, and that's great. But we're very, very bad at getting to where the problem occurs that we're trying to explain and avoiding that problem to begin with.
And for someone like Rebecca, I would think that if we look at what places here can you make an intervention from a clinical standpoint that might do some good. You might really be able to get her in a treatment program, for women who have been abused or have had children removed from their care, or, all these different intervention points, and actually do some good with her. So I would say there would be a potential for early intervention before a child is harmed, and before the next one would happen, that you might see some growth with her. Maybe.
The question in a case like this, I think, is this guy, is he evil? Is he out there viciously killing children? His first story of his daughter was that she didn't even make a lot of sense to me. Like, she got stuck between something, and I'm like, how does this even happen? It probably didn't. That's the thing. He had that story. The story on this child, which has been changed a few times, there's allegations that he told police he accidentally rolled over on Emmanuel and then went out into the desert or whatever, and then buried him to grieve so he could go back and see him again later. Do you buy it? Do you think this is just a completely incompetent moron who rolled over on his baby child who you should not be sleeping next to at 7 months old because you could roll over on your child and kill it? Right. And he's just that stupid and did that? Or is this, a horribly abusive? I mean, you can go either super incompetent, which I would buy, or super abusive, or really a combination of the both. But how do you know in a situation like this?
I would guess that story was the best he could come up with, and it's not a very good story, which doesn't speak very well of his intellect. So I would guess that he was acting out in aggression, and that's certainly what appears to have happened in the first case with the first child. And this is somebody with poor impulse control who likes things to be a certain way, and babies get in the way. Babies are noisy. Babies get into things and test parents' limits all the time. And I'm guessing this is a person that has very low impulse control and just lashes out when he's angry.
Yeah, that's somebody you really want to spend time with, isn't it?
Seems like one you'd want to swipe right on, right? You're like, he seems like a great one. He's going to be guy. He's going to be great. So when we go back to the assumption we were talking about earlier that all parents, they're capable of this, they're capable of that because they are parents. It seems there are so many that are completely missing the parenting gene. Maybe it's not a gene, but the parenting blueprint. Not that we all have it. I mean, it's a crapshoot when you have kids. You're like, well, let's figure this shit out. But usually you can kind of have some place to start to some way, shape, or form, or some degree. But there seems to be so many that have zero clue that this is a life in front of you that you need to take care of and protect. The attention just strictly stays on themselves and their own humanity or lack of humanity, their own narcissism, their own needs, and have zero. It never flips over. It never flips over to this is the person I have to care for. And I know many parents that are good parents. We all kind of say, yeah, when they showed up, the switch flipped. And it was like, it just happened. I think for a lot of people, it doesn't. And do we need to identify that sooner in parents? And what do we do when we do identify that before anything ever happens?
Yeah, you have to have a tremendous amount of maturity to care for another infant. I remember I was only 16 when I had my first, which is, we would say, not an optimal age to be parenting. But I remember bringing the baby home and looking at it and going, okay, well, I've done the breastfeeding and I've done the diapers and I've done the this and I've done the that and I've jumped through all the hoops. Now, when do I get a break? And it's like, never. And I remember sitting with that reality of, you never, ever get a break. And even when this kid is 18 and moves on and is in college or whatever, it's like, you're still parent. You're still needing to be present for that person in some way at some time throughout the course of their lives. It's like a role you're never not occupied with. And there are people who just seem, no matter what age they are, they don't have that capacity to put another person first, to put their own needs aside. And, you know, it's how do you identify it? I don't know that you always can, but certainly we do see a lot of times where folks do not have the stability and the maturity that they need in order to put their kids first. And that's why we are talking about what we're talking about today.
Go
ahead, Tony.
I was going to say, does that come from example? Does that come from conditioning, or is that something that is just in us, or just not in us?
I think it's maturation. It's that, you know, that certain level of maturity that you have to get to yourself. And some people are, I mean, I was capable at 16 of being a very mature person.
Yeah.
Many people never are. And
Sure.
So it's just sort of that way that you develop. And certainly if you were raised in a family by wonderful, mature, giving parents who could always be present for you and meet your needs and knew how to set boundaries and limits and do all those adult kinds of things, but always see that your needs were met and cared for and you were in the right environment and all of that. If you were raised in that kind of home, you're going to integrate that in a much better way than somebody who was never raised with that.
Yeah.
I agree. I never had that drive to have children, and it felt really strange. I've never changed a diaper. I mean, I have made it to the age that I am. I have never changed a diaper. Now, I've just never felt the draw. I'd see a baby and I'd be like, here, you can have it back. I don't want it. But I'm not kidding. I mean, it's almost offensive to.
And it's good you recognize that in you.
I did at a very early age. I was never drawn to infants. And I felt like there was something wrong with me as a woman that, gosh, all of my friends are just like, oh my God, look at this baby. And I'm thinking, ew, it just spit up. You know, and I was absolutely disgusted by these things that were pooping and vomiting and stinking and crying all the time. And as I've gotten older, it's kind of settled down a bit. But I had stepchildren who had babies, and I was just like, I can't, please don't make me hold it. Please don't. But you put a puppy or kitten in front of me, I can't get enough. That puppy or kitten could crap on me, have diarrhea on, I don't care.
And you would have been the one setting the law for the pets before the children in 1848.
100%. But I know this about myself, and I just don't think other people are that aware. They give in to the peer pressure. They see your friends doing all the babysitting and you have to be doing that, but you're not comfortable doing it. I have a self-awareness where I just think I know what my limitations are, and I couldn't fake that. It just, when I hear a baby crying, it's just like fingernails on a chalkboard. I can't deal with it, but I never pretended that I had to do it. I never gave into the peer pressure. My career was very important to me. Having my pets were very important to me. A good relationship's important to me. Those are the things that matter to me. And I think you need to be true to yourself. If you don't want to have children, nobody's forcing you to.
Yeah.
Unless you're forced.
Well,
I mean, unless that happens. Yeah.
That's a whole other discussion, of course.
Exactly.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. But yeah, if that makes me a weird person, I will own it. But I just never wanted a child. And again, so it's a fair warning. If you've got an infant and you want me to hold it, I'll do it competently. The child will not be harmed, but I will not enjoy it.
I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think it's good that you were aware of that. Again, there's nothing wrong with not wanting to have children. There is nothing wrong with that. It's not for everyone.
No.
When you first become a parent, when you're surprised, oh shit, I'm having a child. It's scary as hell. But I think you would have figured it out. And there's something that does seem to change in a lot of us when it actually happens, but it doesn't for everybody.
Right.
And it's be impossible to say or no with that. Let me ask you this, Siobhan. When this went to Judge Dwight Moore, who I know I've been giving a ton of shit to, and I think deservedly so, he was operating under the idea, under the factor that he was rated low risk after his mandatory counseling or training or whatever, and how to be a parent. The boxes were checked as attentive and insightful. What the hell does low risk mean if this guy almost murdered his first kid?
What it says to me is that somebody had a checklist of supposed risk factors, and was this the county agency that was tasked with doing an assessment of the guy? That's my guess. And what was this checklist? And again, this is the problem with our piecemeal system. Every county in the country is doing something different for how are they assessing risk. It's not like, oh, well, here's the one checklist that's going to be valid, because I think from what I can ascertain, we don't have anything really that you can look at and say, well, this is the perfect child abuse risk assessment here. Yeah. There are certainly cases where if a person is delusional, that's a risk factor, psychotic, risk factor, actively abusing substances, risk factor. I mean, we can just kind of use common sense and see what things are going to be red flags and put that on a checklist. But for whatever reason, there was nothing, again, this was not something that had any clinical significance from my point of view, whatever this checklist was. So he was compliant, he was polite, he jumped through the hoops. If they told him he needed to go to a parenting class, he said, fine, he did it. Okay, that really doesn't carry any weight with me as far as whether a person is going to reoffend or not. So again, it speaks to me of a flawed system, a flawed checklist that's probably not valid for what they're wanting it to be used for. And again, a piecemeal system where in this very big country, everybody's doing something different everywhere.
And in systems like this, I would, again, everyone's different, but I would assume in a good chunk of them, people's employment as the individual who's maintaining the program, who's functioningly moving these people through, and they have the pen that's checking the box, probably depends on people coming out of this program as low risk. The freedom of these very people in these programs depend on them coming out as low risk. So it's not hard to game a system where both people in the room have an incentive for that person to come out with a certain check behind their box that says low risk. One doesn't want to lose a job. The other wants their freedom. And if it's just, okay, we're going to go through this module now, don't beat the shit out of your kids. Did everybody get that? Okay, I know it's more in depth than that, but when you have it, the deck's kind of stacked right away of, well, let's get everybody out of here in low risk. There really isn't a lot of incentive to really get down to the nitty gritty and go, no, this person's not qualified. I'm glad you sent them here, but they are certainly not qualified to go have children. Or is my assumption on that completely off?
No, I think you're right. There's just this system that pushes people through because it's the easiest thing to do. Back in the 90s, I was in private practice in California, and I was working a lot with children. And I, for a time, had a contract with the local child welfare agency where they had kids that were in their system, and they needed someone to do individual and family therapy with those kids. And occasionally I would take some of those cases on. And so I wasn't actually an employee of the child welfare system. I was in private practice, but I worked with the kids. And there was one case in particular that I worked with for about 5 years, a little boy who had been extremely abused by a mother. He had been taken away from mother, placed with his biological father, and was thriving and was doing so well. And I worked with him individually, worked with the father, and met with he and his mother. And there was so much wrong. And every part of my being said that this lady was dangerous and was not safe. And I wrote report after report after report after report. I can't even remember how many times I was subpoenaed into court to testify. I was fighting the idea of unsupervised visits for him with her. I mean, there was no doubt in my mind that she should not have custody of him, but definitely should not even have unsupervised visits. There were just so many things wrong. And After 5 years, the court held off for 5 years, but after 5 years, she was given unsupervised visitation for a weekend with him. And the first weekend that she had him, now she didn't intentionally kill him, but she plowed into the back of a semi-truck driving with him. She came out fine. He was decapitated. And I went to the funeral. And I was so distraught. I had nightmares about that child and that situation for years. And that was the case that I stopped working with kids. It was after that. I just said, I just can't work with kids anymore. And it still affects me. This is decades later. And so I think if you have somebody working in a situation like that who knows the child, who has an in-depth knowledge of this person, a checklist isn't gonna be the thing that you're going on. I mean, if somebody was working with this father and knew him really well, had ever been in his home, they would have been able to say, I don't have a good feeling about this guy having another baby here, and just letting go of the reins.
And the question then exists, why do you exist in the equation if they're not going to listen to you? If they're not going to take the input of the expert who it's not your child, so it's not that you don't have a dog in the fight. You are emotionally invested with the child. So I'm not trying to take away from that whatsoever. But if they're not going to take the advice of someone, a third party on the outside who didn't give birth to the child, I guess I should say, but genuinely cares and is genuinely saying this is not okay. But then we're giving the authority to someone who has no education and no knowledge in the department for which you have studied your whole life, and then somebody else gets to decide what your opinion is worth. This is not a system that's remotely functioning. Again, it's like, okay, well, our new director of, or our new head of surgery here, well, he played operation a lot as a child, and since then he's been working at the local Family Video, which has been closed down for the last 7 years. And he's going to be the head of surgery now. But he really he's read a couple books in his life, and he's watched a lot of television. But we're going to let him decide the weight of your findings.
Yeah. It was really a life-altering process for me watching that whole thing happen. And I have a lot of compassion. You and I have talked before about the difficulties being a CPS worker. I have compassion for the workers. And at the same time, we'll hear cases where, why wasn't that flagged? Why wasn't that followed up on? And we all get so angry and upset about it, Well,
and oftentimes the answer at the end of the day is not because people didn't want to, it's because there's not people to do it.
They don't have enough. They have hundreds of kids on their caseloads, and I've had a lot of those folks as clients for PTSD induced by their job and the things that they'd seen in their work, and their sense of powerlessness and not able to make the impact that they wanted to make. And it's a mess.
In America, we seem to have a system that is not equipped to do the job that it should be at all in those capacities. And rather than fix that problem, rather than go, let's get more people qualified in here. Let's have an army of people for this. Let's go to war against this shit rather than apocalypse now. Let's go to war against this and go and help these children. But we don't do that. We end up just deciding, you know what? We're better at having faith in shit. So let's go have some false faith in the goodness of people rather than actually getting good people in here to help the situation. It's I'm glad we solved all of America's problems today in the child welfare system, but certainly a light that just needs to keep being shown on this shit. I know it's an icky topic. People don't like to hear about it. And if you have your family and everything's great and wonderful, this is somebody else's problem until it's yours, until your kid gets involved with somebody that's not the greatest, until someone you care about ends up in a situation like this. Oh, it doesn't happen to my family. The fuck it doesn't. Dig a little deeper. You may not find everything to be so rosy, and more people need to be screaming about this. It's insane that this is how our system works. And it's all right in front of us. It really is. Siobhan Scott, as always, thank you so much for coming on and hearing us rant and bringing us back into reality and giving your insight. It's always a pleasure. Her books, and I saw somebody in the comments said that they read it too, Nightbird, your memoir, and they said it was a great read. It really is. I've read it. Stacey's read it. Very powerful going in to your life and your experiences and the abuse and the survivor story that you have. And of course, The Minds of Mass Killers, your other book, also available wherever books are sold. Go check all of that out. You guys, let us know in the comment sections. What's your thoughts on everything we just discussed? Do you have a better way to save the world than we do? Whatever your thoughts are, please tell us in the comment section on YouTube. Just search Hidden Killers with Tony Brueski wherever you are to find us, and also do press subscribe. That's going to wrap up today's edition of Hidden Killers Live. For Todd, for Stacy, for Siobhan, I'm Tony Brueski. We will talk again real soon.
Want more on this case and others? Then press subscribe now and don't miss a moment of true crime coverage from Tony Brueski and the Hidden Killers podcast.